Shalom on the Sabbath day. Welcome to the Philadelphia Assemblies. According to the Yahuwah's calendar, we're on the 24th day of the third month of the year 5781. 5781. Okay, as we discern the calendar, again, by the full moon as being the new moon, per Psalm 81 verse 3. And I believe this Thursday is the full moon. Okay, so that'll be beginning of the fourth month. This is the third month, this month of Sivan. Again, it's the 24th day of the month of Sivan, 5781. It's the sixth month and the 19th day of 2021. Again, or June, the 19th day of June, or just being recognized just this last week, Juneteenth, or the recognition of freedom of the slaves from after the Civil War. It took over 100 years to get recognized, but it is recognized, and praise Yahuwah that it is, and now it's a national holiday here in the United States. We're going to begin our expository teaching today in the book of Daniel the prophet in chapter 1, and this is considered to be a minor prophet. Daniel is, even though he's major on prophecy. Okay, a lot of things that are tied together in prophecy through the book of Daniel. We're going to talk about those as we do this expository teaching. And again, we're going to open in prayer. We're going to turn towards the east, where the temple was, where it's prophesied to be again in Jerusalem, and we're going to open in prayer. Almighty Father Yahuwah, we praise you in all things. Father, we praise you for your health and prosperity that you put upon us and upon this nation, and really upon most of the world, even though there are still a lot of poverty throughout in all countries. We ask that you lift those up that have less than they need. Father, provide their daily needs. Have more equality throughout everything between the races, Father, and the nations. We ask that there be equality, and there be peace, and there be understanding, things that are lacking in our modern society today. We also ask that you would heal those that are sick, comfort those that have lost loved ones, and again, continue to call those out, Father, that are part of that priesthood after the order of Melchizedek. We ask that your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in the Shamayim, and we ask it all in your precious Son's name. We also don't want to forget to ask for an extra anointing or unction of your Ruach HaKodesh. We ask that Ruach, your spirit, your Malach, your messenger, be upon us today, Father, and teach us what it is you'd have us to know. Again, we ask all these things in your precious Son, Yahushua's name. Amen. Okay, Daniel the prophet, chapter 1, verse 1. In the third year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Yehuda, or the nation of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem, and besieged it, or attacked it. And Yahuwah gave Jehoiakim, king of Yehuda, unto the hand, in other words, into his hand, Nebuchadnezzar's hand, with part of the vessels. Okay, these are the things that are reserved for the offerings in the sanctuary of the Most High, or the temple, into the hand of Shinar, to the house of his Elohim. Now, the word God here is in little G form. That just was meant to show you that it wasn't the God, the Elohim of Israel, okay, but still their Elohim, who they recognize as Elohim, Nebuchadnezzar. And he brought the vessels into the treasury house of his Elohim. A lot of different Elohims in this book that most people don't want to proclaim or recognize. You need to not give Elohim more the word Elohim, not the Elohim, our Elohim, but that word more credence than it really has, okay? So it can be describing anyone or anything that's being worshipped, Elohim, okay? And it's a plural word, so it should have been until they're gods, not God, singular, okay? Which he carried into the land to the house of his Elohim, or his gods, and he brought the vessels unto the treasure house of his Elohim, his gods, plural in English. Verse 3, and the king spake unto Ashpenaz, master of the eunuchs, that he should bring certain or some of the royal family of Israel and of the king's seed or descendants and of the princes into Babylon. Verse 4, the ben or sons in whom was no blemish, okay, or no defilement, no defect, but was well favored or handsome and skillful in all wisdom and cunning and knowledge, giving credit to the princes of Yehuda, in all wisdom, cunning and knowledge and understanding, science, and such as had ability in them to serve in the king's palace. In other words, he was talking about the sons of Israel serving in Nebuchadnezzar's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. Okay, they want to teach that to the princes of Israel, and that was a way of actually, taking away from all their understanding of their worship and everything else. They wanted to teach them their language, just kind of like when you come to the United States, we want you to be speaking English, and that kind of takes away from all their how should I say, not traditions, but their way of life. Okay, just kind of destroys it to when they blend them into this, and this country being more European, okay, than anything. But we have people coming from all walks of the world, and they had the same thing in Babylon here when they were out conquering the whole world. This spirit of imperialism, was obviously going on in this day, and the day of Daniel, as the same as it is today. Okay, so I want to get off on rabbits though. Verse 6, now among these were the sons of Yehuda, of those that they brought in to teach these other languages and their customs and traditions: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, and Azariah. I'll get it, Azariah. Unto the prince of the eunuchs gave names. In other words, they renamed them names, for he gave unto Daniel the name of Belteshazzar, okay, a Babylonian name. Took away his Hebrew name, okay. I'm sure Daniel didn't forget his Hebrew name, but Nebuchadnezzar was trying to take that from him, and not just Nebuchadnezzar, but that whole system. And Hananiah of Shadrach, and Mishael, and Meshach, and Azariah of Abednego. So in other words, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were replacing their Hebrew names. Okay? And everybody remembers Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Most don't remember Belteshazzar, Daniel's Babylonian name. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the nation of the king, with the ration of the king's food. It says meat in the King James means food. He didn't want to eat these abominable things that the nations eat, which we know the situation is. We live in covenant. We don't eat things that are unclean. Daniel, renamed Belteshazzar here, did not want to be defiled and eat things that were unclean, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself, okay, or eat those foods. And things sacrificed to idols were included in that as well, okay, in that food. And that's one of the reasons why Daniel didn't want to eat their foods. Verse 9, meat. Okay, he eats vegetables. You'll see that as we continue. Now, Elohim, in King James, obviously translates it God. And Elohim had brought Daniel unto favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. In other words, he'd formed a relationship with this head of the, or leader of the eunuchs. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, my master the king, okay, who have appointed your food and your drink. For why should he see your faces looking more haggard than the sons which are of your age? It says sort here in the King James, but it's talking about his own age. In other words, they felt that if he didn't eat the foods that they brought, he was going to deteriorate, okay? And people think that today. Then will you make me endangered my head to the king? In other words, if you start looking like you're deteriorating, I'm going to be in trouble. Then said Daniel to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, and Hananiah and Mishael and Azariah, test your servants, I beg you, 10 days, and let them give us vegetables, says Pulse in the King James, talking about vegetables only to eat, and water to drink, pure water. Verse 13, because obviously they weren't drinking water, they were drinking wine, okay, and he didn't want to be under the influence of wine, you know. Daniel didn't at this time. And if you drink wine all the time, you're going to be drunk all the time, okay, and not coherent. Verse 13, then let our countenances be looked, our appearances looked upon before you, and the appearance of the men that eat of the portion or the ration of the king's food, and as you see, deal with your servants. In other words, test this out. Let me eat just vegetables and drink clear water, and at the end of 10 days you can look at me and look at the ones that ate the other provision and see who looks better, you know, or worse. So verse 14, so he, the leader of the eunuchs, consented to them in the matter. In other words, he said, and tested them 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, their appearance was fairer and better nourished than all the sons which did eat the portion or the ration of the king's food. Okay? So that's a little clearer translation, I hope. 16. Thus Melzar took away the portion of their food, okay? And so he took away their food, or in this case meat, really meat, okay? And the wine that they should drink, and gave them vegetables, okay? Because he saw that that was doing well. A lot of people that are vegetarians will sign this and see you're better off. But see, this is all about him not eating things sacrificed to idols, and not eating unclean meats, and not being under the influence of wine all the time. This is not saying that you'd be better off to be a vegetarian, okay? I know you might not agree with me on that, but Yahuwah told us in Leviticus chapter 11 what was meant for food, and there's a lot of meat or flesh of animals that's meant for food, okay? And he means only good for us, and his Torah is good for us, so eating meat is good for us, okay? You might not agree with that, but I believe that let Yahuwah be found right, let every man be found a liar. Say in verse 17, and then he says, as for those 4 ben or sons, Elohim gave them knowledge and skill in learning and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Now, he didn't learn that from the Chaldeans. That was from the Most High through his Ruach that was coming to Daniel in his dreams and visions. Verse 18, now at the end of the days that the king had said he should bring them in, then the head of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar, And the king spoke with them, and among them all was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, and Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore served they before the king. So in other words, because they were the best of the best, they were the servants of the king. And in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all his magicians, okay, and conjurers. It says astrologers in the King James, and it's really talking about people that conjure up demons, okay? In that, okay, conjurers that were in all his realm, okay, and that's talking about demonic realm. Verse 21, and Daniel continued even into the first year of King Cyrus. So that means he lived and continued all the way through him into the first year of King Cyrus. Chapter 2, and in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep was gone from him. So he was unable to sleep because of these visions. Now those visions were coming from Yahuwah, from his Ruach interacting with him, as Nebuchadnezzar was a tool in Yahuwah's hand at this time. Okay? So he says his spirit, that just means his mind, will, and emotions, everything that makes us human, was troubled, okay, in his mind, and his sleep was gone from him. Then the king commanded to call the magicians, and the conjurers, and the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans, for to show the king his dreams, or to interpret the king's dreams. So they came and stood before the king. And the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to understand the dream. I couldn't understand what I was dreaming, and it's bothering me. 3, and the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled. I already read that. Verse 4, then spake the Chaldeans to the king in Syriac, or Aramaic, okay? In Aramaic, that's the language he was speaking. O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. Now, when it says Aramaic, remember he's talking about the Chaldeans that was talking to them. This is probably more like what we would call Paleo-Hebrew than it would be Aramaic that we would say here, but that's what they have here in my reference, is it means Aramaic, and it's what the Chaldeans spoke. What you have to realize is Abraham come from the land of Chaldea, and we have to be able to discern those things. That's what this is talking about. Verse 5, the king answered and said to the Chaldeans, the thing is gone from me. If you will not make known unto me the dream with the interpretation thereof, you shall be cut in pieces, and your horses shall be made a dunghill, or your houses, I'm sorry, not your horses. Your houses shall be made a dunghill. But if you declare the dream and the interpretation thereof, you shall receive of me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore show me the dream and the interpretation thereof. They answered again and said, let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation of it. Now they said, what you said, we'll do it. And that was probably a big mistake. Okay? I know it is. The king answered and said, I know of certainty that you would gain the time, because you see the dream is gone from me. But if you will not make known unto me the dream, in other words, you ever have a dream and then you forget it as soon as you wake up, but that dream keeps troubling you? Well, that's what was going on. He knew the dream was gone from him. That means he didn't have any memory of the dream. And he says, if you guys are who you proclaim to be, tell me my dream. Tell me what I dreamed. there is but one decree for you have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me till the time he changed. Therefore tell me the dream, and I shall know that you can show me the interpretation thereof. In other words, if you can tell me what I dreamed, I'll know that you're correct, and I'll know you can interpret the dream. Verse 10. The Chaldeans answered before the king and said, there is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asks such things at any magician or conjurer or Chaldean. Okay? Verse 11, and it is a rare thing or a difficult thing that the king requires, and there is none other that can show it before the king except the gods, the Elohim. They translated gods plural this time, first time, correctly. I want to point your attention to that. If you got a Bible where they translated that gods, underline it and realize that says Elohim. Look it up in the concordance. Don't trust me. Look it up. Okay? But that's the first place where they translate the word Elohim correctly in English. Okay? And I don't mean that it's a proper word, but it still is what it is. Okay? So that's Elohim, except the Elohim whose dwelling is not with flesh. Okay? Only one that can do that is the true God, is what he's saying, true Elohim, plural. For this cause the king was angry and very furious and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. And the decree went forth that the wise man should be slain, and they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. Then Daniel answered with a counsel and wisdom to Arich, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon, again, which Daniel was considered to be one of, and the other wise men too. He answered and said to Arich, the king's captain, why is the decree so hasty or so rushed from the king? Then Arich made the thing known to Daniel, or the matter, told him the story, what we just went through. Okay? Then Daniel went in and desired of the king that he would give him time, that he would declare the king the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house and made the dream known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions or friends, that they would desire mercies of the Elohim. And actually this is singular here, this is Eloah, not Elohim, okay? Eloah. That they would desire mercies of the Elohim, or the Eloah, which would be the Most High, Yahuwah, of the Shamayim, or the heaven, concerning the secret that Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon, or those Chaldeans and all that group. Okay? That they had already found 10 times better than any of the rest. Then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in a night's vision. In other words, the Ruach came to him in a vision, and he saw this. Then Daniel blessed the Eloah, singular, of the Shamayim. Okay, he wouldn't have blessed the Eloah of the Chaldeans or anyone. He's talking about Yahuwah here. Okay. Verse 20, Daniel answered and said, blessed be the name, okay, of the Eloah forever and ever, singular. And he changeth the times and the seasons. He removeth kings, he sets up kings, he gives wisdom unto the wise, and understanding to them that know understanding. And James chapter 1 verse 5 quotes this, okay? The Apostle James, the brother of the Mashiach, okay? He quotes this in James 1:5. You know, a lot of people quote this today, you know, especially if their guy gets empowered, okay? They'll think this is a good thing, but if somebody else's man got empowered, then guess what? Then they don't believe that. They think that somebody cheated and put them in there. Now, either you believe, okay, that our Eloah removes kings and sets up kings. He gives wisdom unto the wise and knowledge to them that knoweth understanding, or he doesn't. End of story. Okay? Verse 22, he reveals the deep and secret things, talking about Yahuwah, Eloah, and he does that through his Ruach or his Malach. He knows what is the darkness, and the light dwells with him, with the Most High. What do you think he means by that? He's talking about his Ruach HaKodesh. That's the light that dwells with him. Okay? So just so that you can kind of understand what the scripture's talking about here. Verse 23, I thank you. This is Daniel speaking to his Eloah, or the Most High. He goes, I thank you and praise you, you Eloah of my fathers, who has given me wisdom and might, and has made known unto me now what we sought of you, for you have now made known unto us the king's matter, or told him the dream. Okay? 24, therefore Daniel went into Arach, whom the king had appointed to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said this unto him, destroy not the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will declare unto the king the interpretation of this dream. Then Arach brought in Daniel before the king in a hurry, and said this unto him, I have found a man of the captives of Yehudah that will reveal unto the king the interpretation. The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar. Remember, he changed Daniel's name to Belteshazzar. Art you able to make known unto the dream which I have seen? In other words, Nebuchadnezzar's asking Daniel, can he interpret the dream and the interpretation thereof? Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, the secret which the king has demanded cannot the wise men, the conjurers, and the magicians reveal? Or the soothsayers, can they reveal that? Can they not reveal that unto the king? But there is an Eloah, okay, singular, Most High God, in the Shamayim, as Daniel was witnessing, that reveals secrets and makes known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Your dream and your vision of your head upon your bed are these. As for you, O king, your thoughts came unto your mind upon your bed, what should come to pass in the future. And he that reveals secrets makes known to you what shall come to pass. But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living. In other words, it isn't of me. I don't have anything to do with it. The Ruach brought it to me, is what he's talking about. It comes from Yahuwah. But for their sakes, that shall make known in the interpretation to the king, and that you might know the thoughts of your heart, or your mind, should have been here, better translation. You, O king, saw, and behold, a great image. This image, or this statue, that's what it could have been translated to. O king, sawest, and behold, a great statue. This great statue, whose brightness was dazzling, stood before you, and the form thereof was awesome. It says terrible in your King James, should have been translated awesome. Verse 32, this statue's head was of fine gold, its breast and its arms of silver, its belly and its thighs of brass, its legs of iron, its feet part of iron and part of clay. You know that iron and clay together aren't very strong. They'll tend to crumble. Okay? Verse 34. You were seeing that a rock was cut. That a rock was cut out without hands. In other words, it was done without anyone carving it, which struck the statue upon its feet that were of iron and clay and brake them into pieces. This is obviously showing the breaking up of different nations that were the whole of Babylon. Okay? Verse 35, then was the iron and the clay and the brass and the iron and the gold broken into pieces and became like chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the rock that the statue and the rock that struck the statue became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. You, O king, are a king of kings. For the Eloah of heaven, or the Shamayim, have given you a kingdom, power and strength, and glory. In other words, everything you got's because of the Eloah of heaven gave it to you. And whosoever, or wheresoever the bin of men dwell, the beast of the field and the fowls of the Shamayim have given unto your hand, and have made you ruler over them all. You are this head of gold. In other words, Nebuchadnezzar represented the head of this great statue. Okay? And that was the kingdom of Babylon that represented. Okay? And after you shall rise another kingdom inferior to you, and another, a third kingdom of brass, which shall rule over all the earth. Now, they're talking about all the known earth, everywhere that anyone knew at that time, they were ruling over it. Okay? And that's, like I told you, that's imperialism. Okay? But this was used by the Eloah of heaven to demonstrate prophecy, okay? Then and now, okay? And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. For as much as iron breaks into pieces and subdues all things, iron, and as iron breaks all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. Now this was known as the Iron Age, okay? Because anyone that had iron could rule, make good swords, good shields, things like that, and made it far superior to everybody else. That's why they use iron as symbolism here. Eloah did. Verse 41. And whereas you saw the feet and toes, okay, and these represent individual nations, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, broken to pieces. And it probably happened, most people think, at Alexander the Great, after Alexander the Great. And I think most would agree with that. And then it says, what did I say? Shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as you saw the iron mixed with clay. Okay? Verse 42, and as for the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. That makes very good sense to think that would have been Alexander the Great. That didn't last long, his rule. It broke up between the Medes and the Persians, and that's what we're talking about here when we're talking about Cyrus, king of Persia. Okay, that's what this is all talking about. And whereas, and obviously it can talk about things in the future as long as it does things here. And whereas you saw iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the descendants of men. But they will not cling one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. It just doesn't mix. Okay? And when you mix all these different nations, they don't usually hold together, kind of like what we got here in the United States. And in the days of these kings shall the Eloah of the Shamayim set up the kingdom, or the eternal divine kingdom, which we know doesn't come until after the millennial reign of our Messiah. Okay, that 1,000 years, then the rule of the Eloah of the Shamayim. For as much as you saw the stone, or the rock, was cut out of the mountain without hands, okay, that one that was struck against this statue, and that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, that the great Eloah hath made known to the king what shall come to pass in the future. And the dream is true, and the interpretation thereof is true, is sure. It's sure to come. Okay, all of it. And so there's a whole lot more when we start talking about the king, the eternal kingdom of Eloah, and all these things, then more than just these little nations that we're talking about now. See, this prophecy is secular. You got to understand that. That means it happens here, it happens again, it happens again, it happens again. You can look at all the great empires of the world coming all the way up to the present day. And they rise and fall, and they rise and fall again. Okay? But at the end of all this is going to become our Messiah's reign for 1,000 years. And then after his 1,000 years, the eternal divine kingdom will come. Okay, that's the kingdom of the Most High, Eloah. Verse 46, Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an offering and sweet odors unto him. The king answered unto Daniel and said, Of a truth it is, that your Eloah is a Eloah of Elohim, and a Adonai of kings. Okay, Adonai, or King of kings, and a revealer of secrets, seeing you could reveal this secret. In other words, he gave praise to Daniel, but to the Most High, Eloah, Yahuwah. Verse 48, Then the king made Daniel a great man, and gave him many gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief of the governors over all the wise men of Babylon. Reminds you kind of my memory, just the thought I had just escaped me. Okay. The governors over all the wise men of Babylon. It'll probably come to me in a minute. Then Daniel requested the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Okay, now we're disregarding the Hebrew names, okay, that we had earlier, and we're talking about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, but we're again talking about those three wise men that were friends or companions of Daniel, okay, over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel sat in the court of the king, okay, pretty high honor, especially from someone from the tribe of Yehudah. Chapter 3, Nebuchadnezzar, the king, made an image of gold, whose height was 60 cubits, and 60 would be 60 cubits, okay, and the width thereof was 6 cubits wide, okay. A cubit's about from your elbow to the tip of your finger, okay. Of course, everybody's got a different size, okay, but that still was the measurement they used at the time. Okay, then it said, he set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to gather together the princes, the governors, and the captains, the judges, the treasurers, and the counselors. The sheriffs are those that would be like the police, obviously, and all the rulers of the province to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. So he set up an image to himself, and he wants the people to bow down before this image. Not good. Then the princes and the governors and the captains and the judges and the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the province were gathered together into the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up, and they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then an herald cried aloud to you, it is commanded, O people, nations, and language, that at what time you hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, you shall fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king has set up. And whoever doesn't fall down and worship, will the same hour be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace, where they forged iron hot. Therefore at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, or the lyre, that's what a psaltery is, and all kinds of music, all the people, the nations, and the languages fell down and worshipped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Wherefore, at that time, certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews, or those belonging to Yahuwah. That's what the Yehudim are those belonging to the Yehudim. Okay? They spake and said to King Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. And remember, they probably spoke in that ancient Hebrew tongue. You, O king, has made a decree that every man that will hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, lyre, and dulcimer, and all the kinds of music, shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whosoever falls not down and worship, that he should be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. There are certain of the Yehudim whom you has set over the affairs of the princes of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, your Elohim, nor worship the golden image which you have set up. They don't serve your Elohim or your gods. Notice they translated that correctly again. I'm going to underline it in my Bible. Now remember, go check it out. Go see if it's not 430 in your Strong's Concordance, because it is, okay? Elohim, okay? Same word, and they translated gods instead of God. Why do you think they do that? Because they know it means gods, okay? But they don't want you to realize that our Most High has a spirit, and that's why he's Elohim, okay? His Ruach, his Malach, that emanates from him as part of that. That's why it's Elohim, okay, and not Eloah all the time. But you notice they were translating singular Eloah, meaning the Most High, okay? Nor worship the golden image that you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spoke and said unto them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? You do not serve my Elohim, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Okay? Now if you be ready, that at what time you will hear the sound of the cornet, flute, sackbut, lyre, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, you will fall down and worship the image which I have made. Well, but if you worship not, you shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is that Eloah, singular, that shall deliver you out of my hands. In other words, show me this one. Now, and that's something, he was just giving praise to that through Daniel just a minute ago. Well, probably wasn't a minute ago, but earlier in the verse, in the chapter. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, let's instead of having not, let's really rethink that. How should that have been translated? O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to answer you in this matter. That's what they said. If it be so, our Eloah, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. That's bold talk. But if not, be it known unto you, O king, that we will not serve your Elohim another time, nor worship the golden image which you have set up. Then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury, and his facial expression was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spake and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it was usually to be heated. Okay, and that's pretty hot. I forget exactly what steel melts at, but I mean iron melts at, but that's what they had the furnace set at. 20. And he said 7 times more. And he commanded the most mighty men that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. That's what it's going to burn them up too. When they get up, it's going to burn them up, not Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, as we all know. 21. Then these men were bound in their coats and their trousers and their hats and their other garments, and were cast in the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent, and the furnace was exceedingly hot, 7 times hotter, the flame of the fire slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished, and rose up in haste, and spake and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, True, O king. He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the son of Eloah. Now, a lot of people right here say, see, that's Jesus right there. Not at all. That's the Ruach HaKodesh, okay? Spirit being. That's who was in that fiery furnace with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He is the original son of Eloah. Don't be confused. Messiah was the son of Elohim, okay? And that Ruach that was in that fiery furnace was in our Messiah, and now dwells in you and I if we've accepted Messiah and come under covenant into obedience. Okay? So don't be confused and think this is talking about Jesus, which wasn't born until many years later in Bethlehem. That wasn't him in the fiery furnace. That was the Spirit, the Ruach, that dwelled within him. The one that he said, I can do nothing of myself except the Father that's within me. It wasn't the Father himself, it was his Spirit that was within him. Don't be confused. 26. Then Nebuchadnezzar king came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace, and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High Eloah. Okay? Understand that. Came forth and came here. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth of the midst of the fire. They walked out. And the princes, governors, and the captains, and the king's counselors being gathered together saw these men upon whose body the fire had no effect or power, nor was an hair of their head even singed. Neither was their coats changed, nor the smell of the fire had passed over them on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, Blessed be the Elohim. That's what he said here. This is Elohim. Look it up. This is 4:30. Of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So he recognized the Spirit and the Father when he said that. Okay, that's Elohim, because they know the difference because of Eloah, singular. Okay. So he said, Blessed be the Elohim of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his Malach, messenger. Okay? Now, do you not understand that he knew who that was in the fire? That Malach that was in there was the Ruach HaKodesh, and delivered his servants that trusted in him and have violated the king's word and yielded their bodies that they might not serve nor worship any Elohim. That one's translated wrong. Except their own Elohim. Okay? Verse 29. Therefore I make a decree that every people, nation, language which speak anything amiss or offensive against the against the Elohim, make sure I speak correctly, of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill. Same thing he said to them, okay? That can deliver after this sort. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. Chapter 4. Nebuchadnezzar the king, unto all the people, nations, languages that dwell in all the earth, all the known world, peace be multiplied unto you. I thought it good to show the signs and wonders that the Eloah, singular, hath wrought toward me. In other words, made me king over all this. He's given the Most High praise here. He wasn't earlier, was he? His kingdom, he said, how great are his signs? The things we just talked about. Daniel interpreting that dream. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego walking through the fire. And him recognized that his angel was the one that was like unto the Son of God. Okay? Don't be confused. How great are his signs and how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation. That's talking about Yahuwah. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in my house and flourished in my palace. I saw a dream which made me afraid, and the thoughts upon my bed and the vision of my head troubled me. Therefore I made a decree to bring in all the wise men of Babylon before me, that they might make known unto me the interpretation of the dream. Then came in the magicians, and the conjurers, and the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers, and I told the dream before them, but they did not make known unto me the interpretation of it. But at the last, Daniel came in before me, whose name was Belteshazzar, according to them, according to the name of my Elohim. That should be plural. Okay, that's Elohim. And in whom is the spirit of the set apart Elohim. Notice they translated it God's. And they said he, Daniel, was the one of the set apart Elohim. Who's the set apart Elohim? The Father, Yahuwah, and the Ruach. Okay? Not hard to understand. It's just all this misteaching that's got everybody messed up. And before him I told the dream, saying, Belteshazzar, master of the magicians, or leader, O Belteshazzar, ruler or whatever you want to call it, of the magicians, because he was the best of the best. Didn't mean he was a magician. Because I know that the Spirit, now listen to this, because I know, this is Nebuchadnezzar speaking here, because I know that the Spirit of the holy Elohim, and they got little g here, and there's no way that should be right. That's talking about the Most High, okay? And before him I told the dream, saying, O Belteshazzar, okay, I misread there. I know that the Spirit of the holy Elohims is in you. And that was Nebuchadnezzar saying, O Belteshazzar. He says he knows that Spirit of the might of the mighty in you, and no secret escapes you. Tell me the visions of my dream that I have seen, and the interpretation thereof. Thus were the visions of my mind made in my bed. I was looking, and behold, a tree in the midst of the earth, and the height thereof was great. The tree grew and was strong, and the height thereof reached into the Shamayim, or the heavens, and the visibility of it to the end of all the earth. The leaves thereof were fair, and the fruit thereof was plenteous, and in it was food for all. The beast of the field had shadow under it, the fowls of the Shamayim dwelt in the boughs thereof, and all flesh was fed of it. This dream I saw in the vision of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher. Okay, this would be when he's saying here a watcher, he's talking about an angel or a messenger. And holy one, set apart one, came down from the Shamayim. So that's just another word for outside of Malach. 14, he cried aloud and said, thus cut down the tree, and cut off its branches, shake off its leaves, and scatter its fruit. Let the beast get away from under it, and the fowls from its branches. Nevertheless, leave the stump of its roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of the Shamayim. And let his portion be with the beast in the grass of the earth. Let his heart be changed from man's, and let his beast heart be given unto him, and let 7 periods of time pass over him. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, okay, or the angels, and the demand by the word of the set apart ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High, okay, rules in the kingdom of men. So, who's the Elohim of this world? Yahuwah. Yahuwah. Not Satan. Yahuwah. And gives it to whomever he will. Just what we just read earlier, the same thing was quoted in James 1, chapter 1, verse 5. He will set up over it the beast of men. This dream I, King Nebuchadnezzar, have seen. Now you, O Belteshazzar, declare the interpretation thereof, for as much as all the wise men of my kingdom are not able to make known unto me the interpretation, but you are able. The Spirit of the set apart Elohim, they got little g again. That can't be talking about that. It's got to be talking about the Spirit of the Most High. He knew. Nebuchadnezzar understood that. Is in you. Okay? Verse 19. Coming to him and prophesying through him. Verse 19. Then Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, applauded for a while, and his thoughts troubled him. The king spake and said, Belteshazzar, let not the dream or the interpretation thereof trouble you, Belteshazzar. And Belteshazzar answered and said, my master, the dream be to them that despise you, and the interpretation of it to your enemies. The tree that you saw, which grew and was strong, whose height reached unto the Shamayim, and the visibility thereof to all the earth, whose leaves were fair and the fruit thereof much, and in it was food for all, under which the beasts of the field dwelled, and upon whose branches the fowl of the Shamayim had their habitation, or their dwelling place. It is you, O king, in other words, the nation of Babylon, that are grown and become strong, for your greatness is grown and reaches into the Shamayim, and your dominion to the end of the earth, the known earth. And whereas the king saw a watcher, in other words, a Malach, and a set apart one coming down from the Shamayim, and saying, cut the tree down and destroy it, yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass and the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of the Shamayim, and let his portion be with the beasts of the field, till 7 periods of time pass over him. He's interpreting. This is the interpretation, O king, and this is the decree of the Most High, which has come upon my Lord, or on my master, the king. In other words, he gave him this vision and this dream, and he did that with his Ruach, his messenger, his angel, if you will say. But it's talking about the Ruach HaKodesh, that they shall drive you from men, and your dwelling shall be with the beast of the field. And it's going to happen because of his pride. Yeah, obviously King Nebuchadnezzar's pride. And they shall make you to eat grass as an oxen, and they shall wet you with the dew of the Shamayim, and 7 periods of time shall pass over you, till you know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men. Who's the Elohim of this world? Yahuwah. End of story. It is not Satan, not Ha-Satan. It is Yahuwah. He puts them in, he takes them out in the kingdom of men, and give it to whomever he will. He does that all the time in all nations all over the world. 26. And whereas they commanded to leave the stump of the tree roots, your kingdom shall be assured unto you, after that you shall have known that the Shamayims do rule. In other words, that Yahuwah rules from the Shamayim. Therefore, O king, let my counsel be acceptable unto you, and break off your sins by righteousness. In other words, stop being prideful. Give all the credit to Yahuwah, and your lawlessness or iniquity or sins by showing mercy to the poor, if it be a lengthening of your tranquility or peace. All this came upon King Nebuchadnezzar. At the end of 12 months he walked in the palace of the kingdom of Babylon. The king spake and said, Is not this great Babylon? The king spake and said, Is not this great Babylon that I have built? Here he is taking credit. That I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power, and for the honor of my majesty. Not good words. While the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from the Shamayim, saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to you it is spoken, the kingdom has been removed from you. Same like it did to Saul when David came in. Okay? Removed from you. Okay? Verse 32, and they shall drive you from men, and your dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make you to eat grass as oxen, and 7 periods of time shall pass over you, until you know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men and gives it to whomever he will. Now, he gives it over to his Messiah, but he still, when Messiah's reign is done here on earth, what's he going to do? He's going to give his kingdom up to the Most High, and he's always going to give it up to the Most High. Even when he's here ruling, he's going to always say, this is all because of the Most High. You know, he's not going to say, by my might and my power, like this. And this is not talking about Jesus, the anointed one, or Yahushua, the anointed one. This is talking about Yahuwah. He's the Most High. Okay? Don't be confused by a Trinitarian doctrine that three are one, because that's not true. Verse 33, then the same hour was the thing fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar, and he was driven from men, and did eat grass as oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of the Shamayim, till his hairs were grown like eagle's feathers, and his nails like bird's claws. Can you imagine that? That's seven periods of time he was out there. That took a long time for his fingernails to grow like that and his hair to grow like that. Verse 34, and at the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up my eyes unto the Shamayim, and my understanding returned unto me, and I blessed the Most High, Yahuwah, I'm adding that, and I praised and honored him that liveth forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation. And all inhabitants of the earth are accounted as nothing. All the generations of the earth are counted as nothing. And he does according to his will in the army of the Shamayim. That's talking about all those watchers or those Malach. Okay? And among the inhabitants of the earth as well. And none stop his hand or say unto him, what dost you? Who's the king of the world? Who's the ruler of this earth? Yahuwah. Yahuwah is the ruler of the earth, not Ha-Satan. Verse 36, at the same time my reason returned unto me, for the glory of my kingdom, my honor and brightness returned unto me, and my counselors and my lords, or my masters, sought unto me. And I was established in my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added unto me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the king of the Shamayim, which is Yahuwah, and all whose works are true, and his ways in judgment, and those that walk in pride he is able to humble. So I guess we're going to cut it off. That's about an hour. I wanted to get 6, so we're going to have an odd piece at the end of this. Let me look and see how long 6, 5, and 6 is. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go another 2 so that I can do this in 2 parts. Okay, this is a little longer than normal, I know. Forgive me for going long. Chapter 5, Belshazzar, the king, made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords, or the ones under him, and drank wine before the 1,000. Belshazzar, whilst he tasted the wine, commanded to bring the golden and silver vessels which his grandfather Nebuchadnezzar, this is his grandson, Belshazzar, his grandson, had taken out of the temple which was in Jerusalem, that the king and his princes, his wives and his concubines might drink therein. Then they brought the vessels, the golden vessels that were taken out of the temple of the house of Elohah, which was at Jerusalem, and the king and his princes, his wives and his concubines drank in them. They drank wine and praised the Elohim. This time it's translated gods of gold. Obviously that's not the Most High, but it's still, they translated it plural like it should. Look it up, it's 430 of God, and of silver, of brass, of iron, and of wood, and of stone. In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand, and wrote opposite the candlestick upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. Okay? Then the king's countenance was changed, and his thoughts troubled him, so that the joints of his loins were loosed, and his knees struck one against another. His knees were knocking together. Then the king's countenance, okay, verse 7, the king cried out loud, to bring the conjurers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers. And the king spake and said to the wise men of Babylon, whoever shall read this writing and declare me the interpretation thereof shall be clothed with scarlet, and have a chain of gold around his neck, and shall be the third in command, ruler of the entire kingdom. Then came in all the king's wise men, but they could not read the writing, nor make known to the king the interpretation thereof. Then was King Belshazzar greatly troubled, and his complexion, or his color of his skin, changed in him, and probably turned white. And his lords, or his under hirelings, were perplexed. Now the queen, by reason of the words of the king and his underlords, came unto the banquet house, and the queen spake and said, O king, live forever. Let not your thoughts be troubled, nor let your countenance be changed, or the look on your face be changed, okay? There is a man in your kingdom in whom is the spirit of the set apart Elohim. And notice it says gods. Can't be talking about anybody but Yahuwah and the Ruach, okay? And in the days of your father, his grandfather, Nebuchadnezzar, light and understanding and wisdom like the wisdom of the gods, plural, Elohim, another time. See, you can't get through the book of Daniel without being able to understand the Elohim, the Most High, and the Ruach, his spirit, the spirit of Yahuwah. Okay? Was found in him. Found in who? Daniel. It's not some false spirit, little g, like they did here in your King James. Was found in him, whom the king Nebuchadnezzar, your father, the king, I say, your father, made master of the magicians as conjurers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers, for as much as an excellent spirit and knowledge and understanding, interpreting of dreams and showing of hard sentences and dissolving of doubts were found in the same Daniel. That's who those gods were back up there in verse 11. Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he will show the interpretation. Then was Daniel brought in before the king, and spake, and the king spake and said unto Daniel, Are you that Daniel which are of the sons, or the ben, of the captivity of Yehuda, whom the king my grandfather brought out of the Yehudim, not Jewry. It's not a good translation here if you look it up. I have even heard of you that the spirit of, notice it says the gods. They're not kidding here. This is Elohim. Look it up. That the spirit, singular, they got a little s, should be big S here, of the Elohim, the spirit of the Elohim is in you, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom is found in you. Couldn't be talking about nothing else but the Most High and his Ruach. 15, and now the wise men, the conjurers, have been brought in before me, that they should read this writing and make known unto me the interpretation of it. But they could not show the interpretation of the thing. And I have heard of you that you can make interpretations, and dissolve doubts. Now if you can read the writing and make known to me the interpretation of it, you shall be clothed with scarlet and have a chain of gold around your neck, and shall be the third in all command of the whole kingdom. Then Daniel, that's a while ago I was thinking, as just like Joseph, remember when he was in Egypt, he had the same kind of experience when he was in Egypt. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, let your gifts be to yourself, and give your rewards to another. He doesn't need them. Okay, he doesn't want or need them. Yet I will read the writing unto the king, and make known to him the interpretation. O king, O you king, the most high Eloah, okay, gave Nebuchadnezzar your grandfather a kingdom and majesty and glory and honor, and for the majesty that he gave him, all people, nations, and languages trembled and were afraid of him, whom he slew, and who would be kept alive, and whom he set up, and whom he would put down. In other words, Nebuchadnezzar had that put in his hands by the Most High, okay, the power to do so. Verse 20, but when his heart was lifted up, or he became arrogant or proud, and his mind was hardened in pride, he was disposed from his kingly throne, and they took his glory from him. And he was driven from the bin of men, and his heart was made make like the beast, and his dwelling was with the wild donkeys. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of the Shamayim, till he knew that the Most High Eloah ruled in the kingdom, not him, okay, of men. Again, who's the Elohim of this world? And that he appoints over it whomsoever he will. He puts them in, he takes them out. And you, his Ben, or his grandson, that's what he's talking about, O Belshazzar, has not humbled your heart, though you knew all this, but has lifted up yourself against Yahuwah of the Shamayim. And they have brought the vessels of his house before you, and you and your underlords, your wives and your concubines, have drank wine in them, and you have praised the Elohim, translated correctly another time, of silver and gold and of brass and iron and wood and stone, which see not, nor hear, nor know, and the Eloah, singular, in whose hand your breath is, and whose are all your ways, have you not glorified. In other words, you didn't give honor to the Most High. Then was part of the hand sent from him. And notice, then was the part of the hand sent from him. That's the Ruach's hand that he saw. He's the hand and the arm of Yahuwah. That's why he just saw the hand. And the writing was written. And this is the writing that was written. Mene, tika, upharsin. Okay? This is the interpretation of the thing. Mene, Eloah, hath numbered your kingdoms and finished it. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting. In other words, you're not worthy to be in that position. Perez, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. That was the feet of clay and iron that were broken on this. This is being interpreted for your eyes right here, Medes and the Persians. Then commanded Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet and put a chain of gold about his neck, and made a proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. So there was only two others above him. And that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain. That same night. 31. Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 or 62 years old. Okay? Chapter 6. It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 princes, which should be over the whole kingdom, and over these 3 presidents, of whom Daniel was first, that the princes might give account or be accountable unto them, and the king should have no damage or no loss. This Daniel was preferred above the presidents and the princes, because an excellent spirit, the Ruach they're talking about, okay, was in him, or coming to him. And the king thought to set him over the whole realm. Then the presidents and the princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could find none occasion nor fault, for as much as he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him. Then said these men, we shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law of his Elohah, the Torah. Okay? Then these presidents and princes assembled together the king, and said thus unto him, King Darius, live forever. All the presidents of the kingdom, the governors and the princes, the counselors and the captains have consulted together to establish a royal edict or statute, and to make a firm decree that whosoever shall ask petition of any Elohim for 30, or man for 30 days, save of you, O king, he shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writing, that it may be not changed, according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, which alters not or changes not. Therefore King Darius signed the writing and the decree. Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went into his house, and his windows being open in his room toward Jerusalem, he kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day, and prayed and gave thanks before his Elohah, singular, and as he did aforetime, in other words, as he's always done. Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and made supplication before his Elohah. Then they came near and spake before the king concerning the king's decree. Hast thou not signed a decree that every man that shall ask a petition of any Elohah, or Elohim, I believe it's here, or man within 30 days of you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? The king answered and said, the king is true, according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, which alters not. Then answered they and said before the king, that Daniel, which is of the sons of the captivity of Yehudah, regards not you, O king, nor the decree that you have signed, but makes his petition 3 times a day. Then the king, when he heard these words, was very displeased with himself, and set his heart, or made his mind on Daniel to deliver him, and he made every effort until going down of the sun to deliver him. Then these men established unto the king, and said unto the king, Know, O king, that the law of the Medes and the Persians is, that no decree nor statute which the king established may be changed. Then the king commanded, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. Now the king spake and said unto Daniel, Your Elohah, whom you service continually, he will deliver you. And a stone was brought, and he laid upon the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet, and with the signet of his underlords. It says lords in the King James. I'm letting you know it's underlords. That the purpose might not be changed concerning Daniel. Then the king went to his palace, and passed the night fasting, neither with instrument of music brought before him, and his sleep went from him. He wasn't able to sleep because of Daniel in there with those lions. Then the king arose very early in the morning, and went in haste into the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried with a pained voice unto Daniel. And the king spake and said to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living Eloah, is your Eloah, whom you serve continually, able to deliver you from the lions. Then said Daniel unto the king, O king, live forever. My Eloah has sent his Malach messenger, the Ruach, and has shut the lion's mouth, that they have not hurt me. For as much as before him innocency was found in me, and also before you, O king, have I done no hurt or no harm. Then was the king exceedingly glad for him, and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no matter of hurt was found upon him, because he delivered in his Eloah, because he believed in his Eloah. And the king commanded, and they brought these men which had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions, them, their men, or their sons, and their wives, and the lions had the mastery of them. That's not good. And break all their bones in pieces, wherever they came at the bottom of the den. Then King Darius wrote unto all people, nations, languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom men tremble and fear before the Eloah of Daniel. For he is the living Eloah, singular, and steadfast forever. And his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall be even unto the end. He delivereth and rescueth, and he worketh signs and wonders in the Shamayim and in the earth, who hath delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. So this Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. And that's going to be the end of it. I know it went a little long, maybe an hour and 30 minutes, but we needed to kind of break this in half so we have two equal things here. So, and if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, go to Philadelphia Assemblies at youtube.com and hit that subscribe button. And then hit the like button if you give us a thumbs up if you like this video, and then share it, okay? And hit that notification bell so you get notified of that next video when it comes up. And again, may Yahuwah bless until we meet again.